So I'm out on my walk this morning. It's so important to get moving. At least for me it is. Once you get moving, the energy gets flowing, the mind gets clear. At least for me. So I'll make it a point to try to get up and move every morning, 30, 45 minutes at least. So today I'm taking a longer walk. But as I was walking, I remembered just out of the blue a conversation I had with a really good friend of mine. He's like a spiritual son to me, to us. And we're driving somewhere. I'm in the front seat, he's in the back seat. And then out of the blue, he says, "Hey, what are the three most important things that you could tell me right now?" And I go, "What?" And seriously, without giving really any thought to it, I just opened my mouth and I began to talk. And it's almost like, okay, if I met myself again when I was younger, what would I tell myself? So the first thing I told him was, hey, I think the first thing that we need to do is be totally brutally honest with ourselves. I mean, to the point of, we delve into our belief system to the point of saying, why do I believe what I believe? Why do I believe this? Is it something I grew up with, so I believe it? Is it something I heard on a tape, TV show tape? Yeah, let you know I'm dating myself. Hey, we go back to reel or 8-track tape. I had them all, cassettes. Or some I downloaded on an MP3. How about that's a little better. So I said, really be brutally honest with yourself. Because if you're not, you're going to stay where you are and never change. Because if you keep repeating the cycle of what you believe and it's not working, then maybe what you think is truth for you really isn't. So I said, be real honest. I mean, to the point of just digging down deep. Why do I believe that God heals today? Or on the flip side, why don't I believe God heals today? And dig down till you get to the very core. You get down to the end of it. And there you are, just heart laid open, and realizing, man, maybe I believe this because I was taught this my whole life, but, maybe it's not the truth. I know a lot of people sometimes get a little nervous to do this because it's like, well, what if I get down to the bottom of what I really believe and I find out that what I believe is not really true? And I said, that's a great place to be. Can you imagine finally getting to a place like that so we can change the direction of our life so we can actually begin to build, a bigger future in our life in the kingdom? That's a great place to believe. Sometimes people have said, I don't know, what if it shakes my belief in God or shakes my belief in the Word? Hey, what's wrong with that? I guarantee you, God, He's such a great dad. He's not offended. He doesn't get upset if you really find what you really believe. And maybe what you're believing just wasn't the truth. For example, why do you believe that maybe you should not walk in the Father's provision of an overflow? Or why do you believe that this or that? You see what I'm saying? It's like some people, for example, I don't want to spend a long time on this, they don't believe that they should have, either because of something they've been told or the way they were brought up. And learning the Father's heart for provision is incredible. Learning the Father's heart for healing is incredible. Learning the Father's voice in the various ways that He speaks is incredible. So get down to the core. I mean, shake your heart to the core. Why do you believe what you believe? Well, here's a good one. Why do I believe that as a Christian, if I do something wrong or I think something bad, why do I believe that God is going to get me, smack me up the side of the bottom with a 2x4? Why do I believe that? Especially if that one. The more you dwell into that one, the more you might find out that that belief is just not true. It's not who the Father is. So anyway, I told him, well, the first thing I'd say is to be brutally honest with yourself. Because until then, there's no change. And I said, the second thing you want to do, and again, he caught me so off guard. And I started thinking, okay, like I said, okay, if I met myself again when I was in college, what would I say to myself? And the second thing I said was, after you are brutally honest with yourself, it's important to finally find out what is in the core of your heart. What is it that you've always wanted to do with your life, but you haven't for whatever reason? Lack of provision, fear of failure. What is it? Number two, what is it that you've always dreamed about doing? And maybe your dreams have been shoved down. Maybe your dreams have been covered over with, life's circumstances, the hardness of life, different, tragedies, etc., that may have happened. But again, think, what is, if I could do it, what could I do? It's like, and I said, let me ask you this question. What would you do if you had all the money in the world, that money was not a problem? And secondly, you had 10 times the courage that you have right now. What would you do? Well, that brings pause. That brings pause to me. Even when I think about it today, it's like, ooh, if I had literally unlimited resource and I was 10 times more courageous than I am today, what would I do? What would I be doing with my life? And so I said, really think about that one. And I reminded him that, sometimes we can discover our life's dream, our life's passion, by even thinking back to when we were kids. Because a lot of times we begin to create and do those things that just are in our heart to do. And as you know, sometimes school, well-meaning teachers, coaches, etc., will just come in and squash those dreams. And you probably heard this analogy before. It's like people that have a passion for art when they were younger love to color outside the lines, or love to color with the different colors and colors they weren't supposed to use. And suddenly they're told, well, you know what? That's just not right. You can't do that. Or you're growing up now. You don't need to be dwelling in that color stuff anymore. You need to grow up and get a real job and forget about doing all this stuff. Hey, we can get a real job and still do all this stuff because it's our passion. And as I've said before, if you can connect with your passion, who are you? God breathed life in you for what? Once we connect there and we get up each morning and say, oh my goodness, I was just made to do this. I was made to do this. You wouldn't even have to pay me to do this. When you get to that place, seriously, you had a really good place of anchoring into that passion, the reason that you were born, the reason you live. And let me say, be brutally honest with yourself. Say, well, I've always wanted to do this, but go beyond the but. Find out deep, dig deep what it is. And one of the objections that I know some people make is just, well, what if it's something I want to do and the Lord doesn't want me to do it? Honestly, my belief in that is really changed from when I was younger. Because it's always, oh, we want to do it, all that God has for us to do. And people will say, well, that just sounds selfish to me. I don't know. Well, honestly, I think that when you were born, before you were born, God had you formed. He saw your heart, saw your destiny, saw who you are, And when he breathed life into you of that moment of conception, when he did that, within the DNA, your spiritual DNA, were the purposes, the dreams, the desire of your life. And he hardwired them in there, in your spiritual DNA. So that you would naturally be drawn to, I guess I'll stop, I'm shaking this camera pretty bad. That you would naturally be drawn to the things you want. It's like, well, I have a desire. Yeah, well, maybe it's part of your DNA wiring from the Father when you were born. And personally, I would pursue that, because I'm sure you agree with this, that if we move forward and we're maybe going to take a left or a right, and the Lord doesn't want us to, we very clearly can hear the no. So you don't go left or right. It's that simple. But in finding the desire, the thing you want to do, you're like, man, just go for it. Jeez, what have you got to lose? Nothing. What have you got to gain? You got to gain an exciting today, an exciting future, an exciting life. You get to, what I like to call this, you get to create a bigger future out of your heart. And I tell you, once you reach that level of passion, it's easy to do ministry because it's a byproduct and it sort of naturally flows. You don't have to go out and, do the Christian deed, and that's all fine. But when you discover that, people are going to see the joy in your life. They're going to see the fruit from what you're doing, and they're naturally going to say, hey, what is it with you? How come you're so joyous? I mean, things have been tough. Yeah, you can say, yeah, things have been tough, but let me tell you, I am drinking from the well, as they say, because I've connected, with my source of supply, and he has empowered me to do the passion of my heart. And I am so full of joy, because as you know, joy doesn't equate happiness. Joy is a solid, stable place. And so you have this byproduct that naturally comes from having passion. And, as they say, the Lord wants us to, and he does. And he says, go into the highways and byways, compel them to come in so that my house will be full. But then I love this. He says, it's the goodness of the Father that brings people to repentance or to him or to change their mind. So there's a byproduct called fruit that naturally happens when you're passionate. Now you can think about that for a minute, but it's really true. So it was like, okay, number one, be brutally honest with yourself. Just finally be real with yourself. Because the way you are today, the place you're at today, what's got you there is your belief system, and you're acting on that belief system. So you need to break through that. And number two was find your passion, find the dream that's in your heart. And goodness gracious, believe that God can open doors for that. Well, you say, well, I don't have the money, or I don't have any open doors. Well, can I tell you something? Unless you get on the horse and start riding, you can't be directed anywhere. And if God, our Father, can hang the sun in such a proportion from the earth and from us that it breathes life into us, if he can do that just at a word, it's a really easy thing for him to empower you and equip you and open doors for you for the thing that he created you to do in the first place. He's a good dad. And as you know, dads, I've said this so many times, I love, absolutely passionate of being a father and a grandfather. And, when we get to that place, you understand that the greatest joy in a father or mother's life is not watching your kids do what you want them to do as adults. No, the greatest joy is watching them do what's in their heart to do and be fulfilled at it. That's the greatest joy. So that's what the Father wants for us, as well. He wants us to be brutally honest with ourselves, discover what's in your heart. And boy, I could spend hours talking to you about that because it changed my life. And the third thing I told him, and again, if I was to meet myself again when I was young, like in college or high school, what's the third thing that I would tell myself looking back? And I said, well, number 3 is just do it. Be brutally honest with yourself. Believe that this passion is from the Lord. Believe this desire, this dream you've always carried is from the Father. And number 3, do it. Just go do it. Start now. Oh, well, I don't know. I don't know if I can do that. I don't know. I don't know if I have enough wisdom to do this. Well, can I tell you a secret? You know, people say knowledge is power. Well, the truth is, knowledge is the beginning point. When you act upon the knowledge you know, when you act upon it, then you create wisdom. Wisdom will come through experiences of life as the Lord empowers you to move forward. So you just act. You begin to do it. You begin to move forward. Because in this going forward, it's important that you don't fear. Actually, fear was part of the second thing I was talking to him about. You know, find out what your heart is to do and don't fear. Do not fear. Fear is not your enemy. Fear is your enemy. Got that one backwards. You will be trapped. You'll be stopped. You'll never fulfill the passion of your heart if you live by fear. Fear is not your friend. And we do what we do, and we get rid of fear, which, again, I don't have all day to talk to you about that, because there was a season of my life, man, I had fear like crazy. And I know for me, the great moment of change came for me when I had this incredible encounter with the Lord that shook me to the core. This encounter was like I was sitting in the oven of God, the fire of heaven. It was crazy good. But the byproduct of these encounters, I noticed that as I began to live life, that some of the things that would, maybe make me a little fearful just had disappeared. And again, it was a byproduct of meeting the Father in a passionate, fiery way. And so fear, let me just say, fear is not your friend. Don't let fear stop you. You can get a lot of research and study on fear. Let's do what we can do to get rid of it. And, I've heard this before. You're afraid to open the door, and the word fear is on the door, but once you open it, you realize there's nothing there. It's all a precept. It's all something that you've built up in your head. So anyway, be brutally honest with yourself. Do not fear, and find out what it is you're passionate for. And don't fear. Do not fear, because fear will stop you from doing it now, moving forward now. Well, what if it's not the timing of the Lord? Well, you will absolutely know that. But in the process of waiting for doors or whatever, you begin to put together the plan. You begin to gather together the things you need to move forward in what's in your heart. And as you continue to move forward, you will always hear the no of God. And I'll tell you, when you move forward out of faith and not fear, faith is not the absence of your knees shaking, but it's incredible as you take these steps just to go ahead and go out and do this. It's incredible how you will hear the voice of the Father. And as you move forward, for us, we raised our kids in a yes-based house, yes-based home. Basically, it's pretty much a yes, unless it's something that's, going to be detrimental to you physically, spiritually, or emotionally. And so the no was big. I mean, you would hear the no, and the no was for safety. The no was from love. And it's the same as the Father, when you step out and begin to do it today. I mean, make plans today. You're going to hear the no when you need to hear it. In fact, if I were you, and I do this, there's something about writing down with a pen or a pencil on paper that anchors something in a fresh reality versus just typing it out or putting it on your computer. And I do that too. But for me, getting a notepad and starting to outline with a pen or pencil, I don't know what it is, but it really anchors me in a more solid belief of what I'm doing and what I'm moving forward in. So maybe that's something to consider. Get a pen or pencil and a notepad and just begin to write out the dream of your heart. Begin to outline it. Begin to write it out. Wow, if I begin to walk in this, what's it going to look like a year, 2 years, 5 years from now? And look at it and say, wow. And on the other hand, the next year, 2 years, 5 years, what's it going to look like if you don't do it? And see which one you like better. So anyway, I just wanted to share this morning. I'm out walking and that just came out of left field. So I thought maybe I could share it. Hopefully encourage you in your life and give you at least an overview of some of the tools that, I know I use in my life. And just remember, number one, be brutally honest with yourself. Why do you believe what you believe? And then adjust accordingly. Adjust to the truth of the Holy Spirit and just not life experiences. And number two is discover what it is you really want to do with your life. And don't fear. Let's just say that could be a number three. So number three, don't fear. Once you discover, once you're brutally honest, don't be afraid that you're going to discover something that God, Or as you begin to dream your dream, find in your heart that spiritual DNA that God wired in you when He breathed breath in you. When you discover that, don't think it's not possible. Don't fear, because that's all that is fear. Oh, I don't know, that's fear. Don't do that. Gird up your mind with truth and believe, I can do this. So don't fear. And number four, although I said three, this is number four, is do it. Go. I'm sure we've all heard the scripture where Jesus said, go ye into all the world. He just said, go. And so we want to live a go life. And when it comes to you personally, your life, what's in the passion, the heart of you, of your heart, it's just time to go. And I know I feel, especially maybe somebody that's listening to this, you're waiting on someone just to say, okay, go. It's time. It's time. Get up and let's go. And as you begin to do that, it's incredible how your life will transform over the next months and years, and the fruit you'll have in your heart and in your life, and the fruit you'll have gathered around you. It's just incredible. So I wanted to just share that this morning. Hopefully it encourages somebody. And I'd love to hear from you. If you want to, you can email me. You can always email me at michael@kaylorministries.com or connect@kaylorministries.com. Or you can just send me a message on Facebook. But I'd really, really love to hear from you. If this simple outline touched your heart, if it affected you. And then down the road, goodness gracious, I'd love to hear the fruit of it. I would love it. So it's been great being with you virtually. And as I said, I'm out here walking, which I really need to do. Because remember, man, you got to get moving and you got to go. And that's a part of what I shared. Well, I tell you, I think some of these cars need to get their mufflers checked. Or some of them are made that way, huh? Anyway, love you guys, and I'll talk to you again soon.